Just a couple things I want to clear up for some confusion on these twin cam and M8 motors. Specifically, talking more about the bottom ends on these things. The term run out gets thrown out all the time. Run out on the pinion side, on the sprocket side. What that is you're measuring the up and down, side to side, whatever movement of the actual shaft coming off of your flywheel assembly. And yes, it's important to check, but a big, I feel, misconception people don't understand when checking that is you're only really checking part of the equation. And what I mean by that is if you're just doing a cam install and checking your run out, hey, that's definitely important. You don't want, especially using aftermarket oil pumps, aftermarket cam plates, if that run out is very excessive, and a lot of those manufacturers have a limit or spec which they require to run their parts, you could potentially be damaging all those really nice parts that you just bought. So again, and this bike specifically came in for some cams, a big bore kit, and you got to check the run out, at least see where you're at. We've had multiple times where we checked the run out, even just doing a camshaft. We had this a few times, and some lower mileage bikes too. It's unfortunate, but that's what they put out. And you know, they were way out of our tolerance, if you will. You know, we generally won't even put anything together if it's 6 thousandths or higher. That's just our general rule of thumb. You know, the manual might say differently, but if you're trying to build something with performance, why would you want a chance just running on a time bomb and ruining something? And what happens, I guess, let's explain that a little bit further. I don't think I have another crankshaft laying around here. I think they're all sent out. But anyways, I don't know if you can see in there or not. Let me grab a light. Anyways, what happens is these two flywheel halves, you got the big rounds each side, your connecting pin, the rods are on. What happens is those two halves will actually start to pivot, and that's what causes this to, you know, if that shaft was you know, right here on my hand, and that thing pivots like this, well, it's going to move that way. Let me see if I can grab a light. Give me 1 second. There we go. If you can kind of see it. There we go. There's a little better. That's inside the cam bearing. That's the edge of the pin. You can see it. That pin is pressed through both flywheel halves. And especially hard takeoffs, rolling burnouts, anything that is a real blow to this motor, high load, that's what's going to potentially shift those halves and give you some excessive runout. That's why we always recommend, if you're going to do it, build it right from the ground up. Start with a good foundation. Anyways, going back to it, checking the runout's important. We always go one step further and we check the rods. There's only so much you can do to check them, obviously, in the cases and together. But as you can see, I've got one that's falling and one that's just chilling upright. That is a sign of a tight rod, which is not ideal. As you can see, well, that one's not moving. What that means is that bearing, wrist pin, the thrust washer, something in there is causing it to bind up, which is going to be excessive drag, which potentially might feel like something, or potentially prematurely wear out something, and you're going to have a failure. So at this point, we need to call the customer. We need to let him know that, hey, these rods are stuck, and we need to do something about it, or we're just gonna put it back together stock. Yeah, you can see that one's doing it. And sometimes we've found that you might have to spin this motor over 10, 20, 30 times before you can find a tight spot. And sometimes it's not cut and dry. As you can see, that first one, it was kind of falling, and that second one was stuck, you know, and I just spun it over one revolution. I mean, this one's a pretty good stuck one. So, you know, we take it a little step further. Hey, let's check the run out. Hey, let's check the rods and see if they're binding or tight. I mean, it is important, and we always recommend it when guys come in and they want to do a cam and a big bore. We always recommend doing the bottom end, just because you're spending all that money on this stuff. You're basically running on borrowed time with that stock crankshaft. I can tell you a story myself personally. One of my 05 electric glides, you know, I did a top end kit, and I probably got about 4 years out of it before the bottom end went. That's a true story. Had I just not cheapened up and hey, just started from the ground up, that motor probably would still be running today, and that was probably about 8 or so years ago. Anyways, you know, and it's different for guys not doing the work themselves, or not capable, or not having the right tools to do it. It's, you know, if you want this stuff to last, I get it, it's expensive, but buy once, cry once. That's all I'm gonna say. So just a little information to clear up, you know, checking run out, checking the rods, starting with a good foundation, you know, a true welded, balanced, pinned crank. You do that, and chances are you're probably not going to have any issues. And you probably do multiple top ends to that bottom end once that's done. So it's just do it once and be over with. And another point before we get off of the video here, I have personally noticed on the dyno, bikes that have welded cranks or done up cranks, and versus bikes that do not, or just a stock crank with whether a big bore cam. I have definitely noticed that a done up welded crank, it definitely makes more power on the dyno. And I believe that that's because everything is running a lot truer and not offset, whether it be that side or this side, as far as excessive run out. But I've proven it. I've done it multiple times. I've used the same cam, same big bore, one with a crank, one that didn't have a crank, and the only reason that you know, some of them had a crank and some didn't is we had found that, hey, when we were getting into that job, it was pretty excessive and we had to do something before putting it back together. So it's kind of cool seeing all that data when we can do it right here. But hopefully this video helps out on explaining run out situations and having tight rods. Yeah, that one's nice and stuck. I mean, those should just free fall. But hopefully that helps out. If you have any questions, you can always call our shop, and we'd be glad to get you something reliable that's going to make a ton of power, and not just sell you something and then have issues down the road and then you're coming back mad about it or whatever. So thanks for watching.